I'm trying to read why Netflix is blaming its poor US growth on credit cards with chips in it.
I don't get that. Like, uh, that was my dog, I think. Did you hear that?
Mhm. According to Netflix, these new credit cards often have a new number or expiration date, requiring subscribers to update their payment information, which means it will be an ongoing issue. So people get a new credit card, so they realize, oh, hey, I'm paying for Netflix because they'll get an email saying that they can't charge the current credit card because they have a new number, and they'll be like, oh, I don't want to pay for Netflix anymore. Let me cancel.
So that's their problem because that's like admitting a deeper issue.
Right. I
And
don't get it.
by association, that means you're saying your service is not worth the money and people only are subscribed to it because they forgot to cancel.
Right. Or people are not that interested in Netflix that they don't want to take the 3 minutes to sign into their account and update their credit card number.
I, I
They,
was, yeah.
they would rather cancel the service.
I often wonder, like, Netflix usage can't be even throughout the year. It's got to be focused around the releases of their shows and their movies. So I don't think there's been that much recently. They tend to go into like the winter with a lot of their stuff. I know it's been more around the clock, but besides that one movie that they just made that's like Oscar nominated or something about the African warlord and Narcos, there hasn't that much in the last few months. And
Mm-hmm.
like you can, people just binge on Netflix. So, uh,
Okay, okay.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ClashCast. My name is Marcin. You already know me. His name, this guy name, I'm gonna talk, who's gonna say something right now, is Nick. You know him. Hi, Nick.
Hello, Marcin.
Hi, Nick. I am very, very excited. I am very happy. I am ecstatic about what I saw. Are you ecstatic? Were you
Would you use the word elated to describe your mood?
correct? Jolly?
Jolly. Great. I
Yeah.
am neither of any, I'm not any of those things,
Well,
but you
that
know,
it's been 10 weeks since Windows 10 launched, and Microsoft were kind enough to tell us that we are now on 110 million users, which I believe in absolute numbers. I know you're going to pull out the percentages because I used to do that when it suited me, but in terms of absolute numbers, that's probably the fastest adopted operating system in history. Maybe iOS, if you, I don't know, like the curve tends to slow down a little, so if it gets into that 100 million or so range, I think it eventually fills out. But we're talking like really fast here, which filled into their developer story. And the one really somewhat embarrassing part of the event where they mentioned that Facebook is supporting them with apps because, it's 2015 and having Facebook make apps for you is should be like a given. But we're glad that we got that confirmation.
yay, congratulations. Here's a new Instagram that hasn't been updated in 2 years.
So I've been using third-party apps, and they're spectacular. There's one called Six Tag, and actually it's a whole series because it's made by a developer called Rudy Huyn, who's been filling in the app gap for many of the major apps that, for some reason, these developers don't want to bring. And he was actually hired by Dropbox to work on their Windows app while he's still doing his hobby of making these third-party apps, and they're just as full-featured. We got, like, for example, the Instagram widescreen, those photos that they did. We got that a day after, so I wasn't complaining too much. But shout out to him. But it's nice to have official support. So yes, it is a little embarrassing. Into hardware. So this was a Microsoft hardware event, and I think that we have come to a very, well, not a seismic shift, but an important flag in the history of tech, where Microsoft has its own hardware events, and you don't really see many other companies doing these. And this leads into what is the point of their hardware? Who is it for? Are they trying to compete with their OEMs? Well, as we discuss these different devices, we'll probably get into that. So we'll start with Xbox. Not much. They just updated us on what's coming this holiday. They're really pushing the games because they know they've fallen behind PS4. So the only way to make up for that is to get either existing owners to buy lots of content, or to kind of influence people who already have a PS4 or who haven't decided yet to perhaps think about them more. There's just that gap there. Now, we're not talking about them being huge losers in this war. They're actually selling pretty well, faster than last generation. It's just that the PS4 is kicking ass and the Wii U doesn't exist. So that's where we
Don't
are.
don't forget about the Apple TV coming out.
Yeah, with the 64 gigabytes of storage, you can probably fit Halo 5 and 4 gigs of other stuff on it. So, I don't know. They'll probably have to double that and fix some of the hardware issues with that. But anyway, moving on. HoloLens. Again, I think they knew they were starting off with like their getting stuff out of the way, because we've seen HoloLens like 2 or 3 times already, and the effect is wearing off unless like we wear this thing. We'll get how it works, and there's obviously flaws to it. It's still a little bulky, but they had a cool or somewhat interesting thing where they shot robots on stage and they crawled on the wall, so the computer was figuring out what was on the wall and when the robots could jump off. So it was obviously very dynamic, but the tech is still far away. The dev kit is coming out in 2016, the first quarter. It'll cost just $3,000. I know you like to treat yourself, Nick. If you weren't an Apple or so vehemently against Microsoft, you'd plunk down the cash for that, right?
If Apple came out with a $3,000 holographic nonsense thing, I would definitely not buy it.
Okay. Well, there's your answer, folks. Not even to be a dev. Well, you're not a dev, so we can't really answer from that perspective. I'm sure there are devs that have money.
That's right, a $3,000 beta version of a technology that's not proven.
Correct. So it's a cool story, and it's nice that they're developing it so openly. The only other company we might know that's doing this is Magic Leap, this kind of augmented reality, but it'll be a story for the next few years, so we'll see how it develops. Moving on to things that actually exist, we had the Band 2. So last year the Band came out. I got one because I had to. Like, I was compelled to, or even forced to at gunpoint, some might say. But it was a nice device, technologically speaking. There were flaws to it. Aesthetic flaws, mostly. It had bumps, two kind of batteries that stuck out on both sides. It had a rectangular screen, so it kind of wasn't the most appealing looking device, but they fixed all that, like we thought they would. So this upgrade was more of like a, hey, we know the first version was, again, something that we just threw out in the wild and had people who were interested play around with, and it was actually a good device. So if you could stand it not being the most aesthetically pleasing, it worked fine, it worked better, or it worked as well or better in some cases than the Fitbit, and had more features for in certain terms of notifications and some actual health tracking, like a GPS that lets you run without your phone, which was very interesting. This new one is that, with curved screens, more of a premium look with metallic kind of accents, and that's pretty much it. They also added something about VO2, which is how much oxygen your body uses during a workout, which is apparently very important. So I'm looking forward to that.
Do you see them ever coming out with like an Apple like a watch competitor?
Okay, yeah, we can talk about that now. So and I think I was gonna kind of delve into the price. I think the pricing tells you part of the story. It's $250. So where that sits, and I looked this up, the Fitbit, the most expensive version, is $200, and that's like the fitness tracker, right? No one really thinks about it as like a smart watch platform. On the other end of the scale, you have the $350 starting price for the Apple Watch. And that's obviously quite a bit smarter than even the Band is, because you can install apps on it, and it has a touch screen and pressure and all these other inputs, and you can call through it or talk through it. There's just a few more features in there, and it's a little bit more developed technologically. But this sits right in the middle, and I'm wondering if they're just getting, not the lay of the land, but they're placing this product in this range where no one's competing, and then watching where the wearable market goes, because they can really quickly iterate the tech and come up with a form factor depending on, let's say the Apple Watch really takes off, or people are still really into fitness trackers, and depending on where the market goes, they'll kind of push the product in that direction because they can iterate yearly. it's not a high volume product for them, so it's not like they're in deep trouble if they get it wrong. I know there's very positive reaction to whenever people use the first version, since this one is just an improved version of that. It's more of like a PR play and more for like a small volume of users, but definitely something that keeps them in the conversation for wearables. So I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, if you kind of had any other thoughts about that.
No, I mean, I think it's great to see this sort of startup like culture where they're just putting out products like the original Band or the HoloLens, just to get it out there into the market and then to iterate on it. Especially coming from obviously Microsoft, who's always been more established, Big Brother, if you will, 1984 Apple commercial, IBM type thing.
Hmm. Yeah, and yeah, and they yeah. So it's also there's an aspect to that, right? You can do these kinds of experiments, but then you might end up in the Google Glass model where you make something that's just so not accepted or badly thought out that you end up canceling the product, and it's a huge PR disaster for the company. So what I think the key is that they take a set of functions, they made it the best health tracker possible, and they added other things onto it. But they didn't make it a smartwatch. It's not at smartwatch level. It's getting it's not getting there. It's just sitting right below that. So there, no one can really complain that they didn't make a smartwatch because it's not priced like one. And if anyone wants a premium health tracker with a few added smart features, then that's your thing. And it's built very well and lasts 2 days on a charge. So it's a good product, even if there isn't that much of a market for it. It does what it does very well.
Are you upgrading?
Uh, it's been a year, and what happens to batteries is that they tend to. I've noticed that it's lost an hour or two. It still lasts comfortably more than a day, but I'm just tempted, so I'm putting it up on eBay. Might get less than 100 for it, but
So it really will be like a Microsoft Fire sale.
yeah, uh, we'll move on and see how big of a fire sale it is. But
This is a personal plug for Marcin Scott's eBay account. Go check it out.
thank you. Yeah, so we go into the meat of the event, kind of the big cheese, if we will, in terms of the devices, like the devices that get you that in front of the press that everyone talks about, and what everyone's talking about is phones and tablets and all-in-ones or laptops, whatever.
The
These
big cheese.
the big guys, and we'll start from the smallest of the big guys, the Lumia line. So the Lumia 950 and the Lumia 950 XL, we've been waiting since February for these new flagships, so it's really good to see because we actually thought for a few months there that they may not continue development for good reasons. The sales of the whole Windows Phone line have never really taken off. It's not like they've collapsed like BlackBerry, it's just that they've always sat in that 3% range of market share, which isn't anywhere anyone wants to be. But I think the new philosophy around the company is that they don't look at these as phones like a separate type of device. They look at them as just another Windows device on another form factor. So for them, it doesn't matter if they sell 300 million or 300 million phones and 400 million PCs or 700 million PCs and only 100 million phones. They're all Windows devices, so they're all using the same apps and the same system, which lets them get them in front of developers and then make money on the App Store and their own Office platform. But that's probably what the reasoning is behind that. The interesting thing to note here is before they started talking about the actual phones, Panos Panay, which for some reason Nick doesn't like because a Verge stream mentioned that he sounded like a what?
Just that he was annoying.
Okay, annoying. He introduced both the Lumia and the Surface because he's actually in charge of Microsoft devices now. He started in the Surface group where he kind of helped lead that first project in terms of the concept, and he's not a designer per se, but he's like the project lead. So I don't know exactly, but he puts the whole thing together. So he eventually became the devices chief of everything. The thing is, he only became devices chief in.
Is that his official title? Devices chief of everything?
Hey, come on! It's 9:40 at night. Give me some slack, man.
Devices chief of everything.
They should put it having super official looking. Like if we do a video of this, I'll just put it on his when he's talking, like a little bit of using their font. It'll be funny. So he became the device's chief of everything, and he emphasized when he announced these phones that he only started working with the team in June. Now you can look at that two ways, or maybe both ways at the same time. He's downplaying expectations because he hasn't had his hand in what this team is doing. And obviously, you see throughout the rest of the devices sort of a common thread in terms of design, um, appeal, and kinds of features. Or perhaps it's just that he needs a little bit more time to make that device now that they've integrated everything together. So we'll see if that means in the future. We'll see. You might have asked, they might make a watch, which would possibly be like a premium device, like a Surface watch. I'm thinking they might make like a Surface phone that redefines what a phone is, because that's kind of what the whole shtick of the Surface line is, the tablet that replaces your laptop, and then the laptop that is the ultimate laptop, or whatever they call it, the ultimate laptop.
So it's going to be a watch that replaces your laptop, that replaces your tablet, that replaces your computer.
Which replaces your Xbox. So you could do all of that, and then, you don't need a HoloLens anymore, basically.
Microsoft.
And it has a DOS like prompt floating in midair in front of you, so you can use all the features.
Oh, and if you just wanted, you can go switch over to desktop mode and run desktop apps.
Exactly. That's exactly the future. I'm so happy that it's coming.
Windows
I'm so
10
excited.
everywhere.
I'm so excited. So these phones, respectable specs and nice features is what I wrote in my outline. Well, they are respectable specs and nice features. You got the newest Qualcomm's 8-core and hexa-core. You got liquid cooling, which they actually brought over from the Surface, which is pretty cool. You gotta admit.
What does that even mean?
That was a joke, by the way, like, which is pretty cool, and I was hoping you'd pick up on it.
Yeah, respectable specs and pretty cool. Look at you. You could tell that you're a marketer.
Yeah, and then, so you're asking me what that means. Can you elaborate why you're asking me that? It's liquid cooling.
Does anyone really care if a phone has liquid cooling?
Does anyone care about like the little details they mention about iPhone cameras, like how they change the lens to like
Yes,
point
yes, they do.
one
They all care
millimeter?
about it. It's very important
Okay,
because it's Apple.
moving on. They did make an even better camera in these Lumias, so it's still probably going to be the best camera. And don't you dare! This is not the show nor the time for debating that, or at least mentioning your iPhone's camera.
I'll give you this one for now.
Okay. USB-C, you can charge this thing to 50% in 30 minutes. How amazing is that?
You can charge the new mouse made by Apple, 2 minutes for 9 hours.
Okay, it has QI charging, that's wireless charging. But by the way, all four of these features I've just mentioned are on the iPhone, so the hardware is more advanced. It's just, everyone is okay with the lowest common denominator just because it's a popular device. But moving
It
on,
doesn't matter if it's more advanced if it takes you 2 years to get an update to an app.
iris scanner, it's faster than any fingerprint method, apparently. And I'll throw my hands up and say, yes, this stuff has to be tested in the real world, because they've had a history with their claims in terms of cameras, like the Kinect, saying that it can pick up everything, and it kind of got goofy, which is why that thing never got off the ground. Even though you shouldn't take it off the ground and throw it, it's supposed to be. Well,
That
it
was
shouldn't
another
go off the
like
ground.
really cool thing that when they were demoing it, it looked really cool, and I was like, "Wow, I wish the PlayStation did this." Wonder if the HoloLens has the same fate. What do you think, Marcin?
I don't think so, because they just released the Kinect, and they didn't. This HoloLens has been in development for several years, and the devs are going to get to test it next year, and it's not coming out to consumers. You know how things go in Apple. In Apple's philosophy, you only release, well, most of the time when you're ready. Uh, so
Nice dig.
yeah, I'm just doing my job. Yeah, so I'm
Is that
skeptical.
an Apple Maps joke?
No, it's not. It's an Apple Watch.
Yeah, I think
Craig was
Elon
so
Musk
funny.
seems to agree with you on that
I
one.
love that guy. Did you know that the Tesla cars drive themselves as of tomorrow? They'll be in
Yeah, I heard
charge
it's
of.
something like a $2,500 in-app purchase.
That's amazing. So, like, do you put your credit card, or do you say charge to your iTunes slash whatever account?
I think you put it in where you charge the car.
That's awesome. And by the end of the year, we won't have to worry about elections, because Tesla cars will just run our governments. So,
You can tell that this is a late night show.
It's a little bit more free and entertaining, I think. At least for us. I'm sorry for the audience if they don't think so. But we're moving along. We're moving along. Continuum. Okay, I love the event in general, and I've already said a few of my pet peeves. This was probably my biggest. I don't understand why they demoed this feature for the third time. We all get it. You plug your phone into a dock, and you get like a watered down desktop. And I say watered down because you can open different apps, but you can't split screen them. You can't drag windows around. So you have a full screen app basically if you want to be in Word and if you want to copy. Their thinking is, or what I think their thinking is these apps will show up in the Windows Store on Windows 10 and phone, at by connection. They're the same apps, so we'll get everything that you might want on like a basic PC pretty soon. But right now, it's limited to Office and Facebook and all these basic apps. So I'm not sure what market this is for. If it is for the emerging market, I don't think anyone was watching this event in Zambia. So
Are they expecting you to like dock your phone in other people's setups or in your own setup? But if you have your own setup with a
so
monitor, wouldn't you like?
let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and we all know Microsoft tends to go to businesses first before they, think about the consumer. So if we're talking about a business which has, let's say you are some kind of construction company or something like that, right? And you send people out in the field and they have to calculate what's it called, the cost of a project. They like add up things while they're there, like the contractor is at the site and they find out that they have to modify the plan, so they put things into their phone, and then they get back to the home base and they just need to maybe modify the documents or file a report. They can just dock their phone because they don't need a much more advanced computer, and the company doesn't have to buy PCs, full-blown PCs for them to work on these things. I don't know if that's sort of making sense. I thought it did.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah, like
all right,
very very basic PCs.
okay.
If we extrapolate a little further, and we're almost done with phones, but I mentioned the Surface phone before. A thing that they could do, and what I understand is perhaps technically possible, is they put an Intel chip in the Surface phone sometime next year or the year after, and this Surface phone, when you do Continuum, can run Win32 apps all of a sudden, which would become kind of, you could have a very basic computer that you can bring around, and people who are just, they have a docking station at home and they don't need more than one computer. They just bring everything on their phone. That's probably the thinking behind that. But I made that up. That could be a possible future that they see with this. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. We'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Because that is somewhat redefining the phone at a point. It's doing a little bit more than just spec bumps.
Yes, absolutely.
So now the meat of the show, and I've said that before, but now it's like the real meat, like the core of the meat,
This is the biggest
the
cheese. It's
biggest
the
cheese.
cheese. It's the meat. Are you
Yeah.
hungry?
No, I'm not. I ate, and so did you. You had pizza, so I had something. I forgot, but let's keep going. The Surface Pro 4. Nick, why do I need an iPad Pro?
You don't, Marcin. If with a big if you like Windows.
But I am getting, okay. So I'm not getting an iPad, right? I'm looking at the iPad Pro and I'm looking at the Surface Pro 4.
Okay.
Subjectively speaking, I am not a fanboy and I am okay with using either operating system. There are
And,
disadvantages to both.
and you don't, so you're brand new to the market. You're not invested in any ecosystem.
Correct. I have maybe an iPhone, but it's not like I don't need an iOS device to go along with it. I
Right.
am an artist. Do I
Okay.
want the Surface Pro 4, which supports Photoshop and every other Adobe program and then can run as my computer? Or do I want the iPad Pro, which has a lot of these apps, but they just are less functional and it can't, for example, you can't dock anything to it. It doesn't plug into a monitor if I want to use it for anything more that requires a larger screen, or I can't plug in a full size keyboard and a mouse. There's no price difference basically because you have to buy the keyboard cover, which is worse too. So bringing the iPad Pro around using it as a laptop is just not feasible.
But the iPad is not trying to be a computer, and I guess if you're an artist and you had to make the decision and you don't care about ecosystems and you're starting fresh or whatever, you could make the case either way. If you seriously need to run Photoshop on a mobile device, then the choice is clear. But how many actual, graphic artists or professionals need to run full-fledged Photoshop on a Surface when they have, big screens and desktop computers and, 4K monitors and all of that good stuff, which yes, I know the Surface can hook up to, but it's not the same power that these people are used to. You could argue that they need their tablet to just be able to capture sketches and ideas and thoughts, which is perfectly what the iPad Pro is capable of doing in the Apple ecosystem.
So regardless, you can see there's merits to both products, although I think there are slightly more merits to a specific product, the Surface Pro 4. I'll just go through the improvements. They've made it thinner, they made it lighter, but the important thing is they haven't changed the form factor, so all of your old accessories work, which I love it when Apple does this very well most of the time too. You can use accessories for a previous generation of iPhone, unless they change the connector, which has only happened once. So people blow it out of proportion. I'll fully admit that that happened once, and it's not that big of a deal. But it's nice to see continuity between accessories and being able to use the same docks, for example. So they kept the same size device, but they made it 12.3 inches, so you got more real estate. They just made the bezels shorter or smaller. They have a new display technology, and I know everyone's inventing display technologies nowadays. iMac has like its new display technology, and this is something new called Pixel Sense. But apparently it's more on the experience side where they combined all of the different interaction layers. So they made the pen input completely seamless, which I remember Nick asking me, I bet the Surface isn't going to look as good when you're like using the pen, but I bet it does now from what I'm hearing. And the pen itself is pretty impressive. It has an eraser. Revolutionary.
I just want to say one thing. I find it childish when other companies make comparisons to Apple and take those digs because they're saying that their product is better, yet for some reason they feel a need to compare themselves to Apple. So if Apple truly wasn't at the top of their game and the industry leader, they wouldn't be comparing themselves. So by making these, childish digs at the company, that I personally would take it as a compliment if I was Apple.
Yeah, you could take it like that, but also it's not, it's sort of the pot calling the kettle, black, because they showed a picture of a refrigerator with a toaster on top, like there's in like a application that was like rendering something or doing as an example of the
Yeah, it was
Surface Pro.
hilarious.
And I don't know, I think someone else originated that thing talking about the competition. So, you know,
Yeah, but that was like an offhand that was like something that Tim I think said to some journalist in some article, not like a formal presentation on announcing a new product.
I'm sure he said things like that before, and I'm sure you've compared like to Android
Well,
adoption
then it's
rates
Tim,
and
and Tim
other
is
things.
different, and it's Apple, and it's okay.
Okay, good. Just checking over there. The pen lasts for a year. I mean, that's like 365
And then
times
what
more than a
happens?
day. You just pop out the battery and put in a new one. It's a regular quadruple A or something like that.
Quadruple A.
Right? You
I
can buy these
guess.
at a CVS, I think.
Okay. All right.
You don't have to charge it in the butt every day. Okay, it's a great product. They made the keyboard a lot better too. There's actual physical keys that use sort of the butterfly mechanism that we've seen in the MacBook. So that's how
Where did
they
you see
fit.
that? Oh, okay.
I
That's right.
already mentioned it, but as Panos Panay said, Microsoft's been making keyboards for 25 years, so it's not
Panos
like,
Panay. What kind of name is that?
well, Tim Cook, Satya Nadella, like Sundar Pichai, like it's not like the tech industry has like very nice to
It's
pronounce
too
like regular
alliterative for me.
names. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, they're all kind of weird names. Just saying. Mark Zuckerberg. That's like the most normal name in
Yeah,
tech.
because Steve Jobs is so weird.
Jobs. Tell me another person who you know has the last name of Jobs.
All right, let's go to the next topic.
You really want to talk about this? That's a good sign. So even you were impressed. So he's like, Panos is like, okay, yeah, it's a great product. And usually,
Now, let me introduce you to. I mean, I know I just finished presenting the Surface, which is supposed to replace your laptop, but you know what? Here's a laptop, anyways.
how about you take this, Nick? Just talk about it, or maybe.
No, you can introduce it.
Okay, I'll introduce it. It opens up. It's a laptop. It's just like, okay, here we go. You got the fastest 13-inch laptop on the planet. You know, everyone's claiming things in their keynotes, so we'll just take them at their word. And later on, we might find out, it's probably accurate to a certain extent or mostly correct. They say it's twice as fast as a MacBook Pro. I think the same sized one. If that's what
I'm
you're.
confused. Marcin, maybe you can help me out. It's like a Surface with like a hardware keyboard, like a harder keyboard that's more stiff, and like hasn't like Toshiba been doing like laptop tablet hybrids for like years now? What, the fact that you can detach the screen, is that what's really unique about the Surface Book?
What's unique about the Surface Book is it brings everything together into a nice package while redefining a category. So Apple does the first thing right, and other companies try to do the second thing right, but Microsoft brought two things together and they created an aspirational device, which is needed in the Windows ecosystem because no one was innovating and everyone was just, if I'm going to buy a nice laptop, I might as well buy a MacBook. Not thinking about the OS just because everyone knows MacBooks have a reliable design, they look nice, and you don't have to deal with spyware from Lenovo or your HP hinge breaking down, and they needed to do this. That's my perspective.
Do they still have the stickers on the laptops?
If I open mine, and now you know I'm getting one. If I open mine and there's a sticker on it, I'll throw it out the window. I promise you.
Okay. All right. That's a little Intel Core i7 sticker
I'll
on it.
film it.
Or Dolby Digital sound or some shit like
I'll be
that.
so angry because that means like they got paid to put that sticker on because that's why that sticker is there. I think in usual sense, that's kind of why like a lot of this stuff, like spyware, the junk that they put on PCs. That's because they don't have good margins, so they try to make up by selling the software to other people and putting it on these
By
computers.
selling ad space on your hardware.
Yeah, which I don't like. I always like getting premium devices which tend not to have that. And now with Microsoft products, I have that reliable option where I know nothing like that's going to happen. Do you want to go into the whole OEM competition thing? Because I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about that.
If you're ready, go for it. I don't want
Okay,
to hold you back.
you gotta say it though. You gotta like challenge me. It's like, oh, Marcin, isn't this threatening the OEMs?
Oh, Marcin, isn't this threatening the OEMs?
Yes, Nick, technically, but only 1% of all Windows laptops sold are about $1,500, which is where the Surface Book starts.
That's only 1% if you weren't paying attention.
Only 1%. And two, like I said before, no one really wants a Windows device because the hardware designs just
Can
aren't
we
there.
can we cut that and like everything before it and just have that be the ClashCast?
So like it'll
Nobody,
just
Marcin Scott, nobody wants a Windows device.
not even me. See, now you can cut those two together, and there you go, and then we're done. But yeah, it's if the OEMs can't compete, then obviously Microsoft needs to make these devices because otherwise there is a vacuum in the market which a competitor is taking up. Not sure if that's answering your challenge, if you have a rebuttal or, you know.
No, I think that Microsoft has created the best Windows device. OEM should be scared and worried, but increased competition is never a bad thing for consumers, obviously. I do question the Surface Book. If the Surface was supposed to replace your tablet, I mean your laptop and your tablet in one, where does this stand? Also, I think it's ugly, especially the gap when it's closed, and the hinge is very ugly as well.
Should I go backwards or start with which one? Okay, let's start with what the Surface Book is next to the Surface Pro. The Surface Pro is mainly a tablet with a keyboard attached to it. Okay? I can use it as a tablet for 8 or 10 hours.
For
Nothing
the
happens.
Surface Book
That's
is a
a
laptop
laptop,
with a detachable screen.
which only lasts 3 hours. So the emphasis on the use case, because it doesn't have its own kickstand either, is that you pick this tablet up and you need use it for an hour or two. I don't know if you're carrying on the house or you lay back and you watch a video or something like that. And then when you need to use a laptop because you bought a laptop, it's a value add to the laptop. So I should have mentioned that you're using the laptop and you want to pop off the screen and do things with it. Or if you want to reverse the screen and make it a Wacom tablet, a $1,300 Wacom tablet.
So Microsoft has taken a look at the laptop, and there are two main parts to a laptop: the keyboard and the screen. And they said, let's say 5 years ago, they said in a year or 2 years, whenever the Surface came out, we're going to release a product that releases the keyboard. And then a couple years later, we're going to release a product that releases the screen. Revolutionary.
Yeah, I mean, that's how revolutionary our industry is. It's all screen sizes and different variations of different features. Right?
Of course.
I wish I had a better answer, but that's basically what it is. Because making it a laptop just makes a different type of device, a different use case. I'm going to be typing on this a lot more or editing. Then it's not just the when you're making a tablet, because we're talking about the physical size here. The Surface Pro is 12 inches across, so it's something that you are comfortable holding as a tablet more often. You're using it as a tablet more often. You can flip the keyboard and carry it like in the cradle of your arm and use it like a tablet. When you have a 13.5-inch screen, it's just not as comfortable. So you're more leaning back with it if you're ever going to use it as a tablet. You're using it as a clipboard for maybe 20 minutes or something like that. And then you're using it as a laptop because you bought a laptop. The other thing is that you're making it a drawing. Again, artists, you reverse the screen and you get the full power of that GPU that's in the base. So you get tons of features at the same price as a MacBook Pro with more performance, and it's just a more versatile machine. It supports the same pen. It has the same touch functionality. I'm not sure what the losing scenario here is, but obviously that's why we're here to argue, because you'll never agree with me and I'll never agree with you. So in summary, Microsoft, this event was very wide-ranging and was 2 hours long, but it felt much shorter, and that's a good thing. It just felt like they had back-to-back interesting devices, things that got more and more impressive as the event went on, culminating in the Surface Book, which was, a very nice new device that rethinks some of the things that we think about laptops. And it was probably the best tech event of the year. I'm not sure if Nick agrees with that. Perhaps not the best, but the most memorable. You don't have to say it's a good thing, but like just in terms of the impact and what people are saying afterwards and how, the reaction.
Sure. Let's see. We have a product in beta that will probably never take off into mainstream. We have some plastic phones, which no one will probably buy. We have the tablet that's supposed to place your laptop, but
That's
not
a
really,
$3.5 billion business already. After
because here's a laptop that will replace your tablet.
So they're canceling out that $3.5 billion and growing that they're getting every year.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. No one's buying them. No one.
It's a write off.
No one's buying that. They're just gonna say, "Yeah, that was a stupid product." I know the sales were growing, but what's the point of keeping it around, right?
They've managed to make the best Windows hardware. There you go. That's sincere, and that's the only thing that I'll have to say.
Is it competitive with Mac hardware? Take out the software. Is the vision, the
No,
fit and
no,
finish?
because no, it'll never be because you don't have Johnny Ive.
I'm surprised how close they get, even if it's not the same. But okay,
That
whatever.
hinge is ugly, hideous.
Okay, let's talk about the hinge. I think it's space age. It's like something out of a Martian or Interstellar.
What is this?
How,
The year 2000?
no, in 2000 they had like everything being like what was it? Wasn't everything like chrome, not like white beige, like every computer? That was the year 2000.
I don't know. The hinge is ugly.
See, we'll never agree on anything. Oh, so the hinge. Yeah, let's talk about the functional part of it. You have a tablet on top, and the bottom is also the keyboard, the batteries, and the GPU. They had to make it balanced. So when the screen goes back, they had to make it a specific angle. But the other thing is when you close it, you don't want the keys touching the what's it called, the screen or the back of it when you flip it, because otherwise you'll scratch it. That's just the realities of the technology these days. They can't make the keyboard disappear or anything. It's not reliable if it's retractable. I think that causes mechanical faults and things like that. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Will you give him that?
Sure, I'll give them that.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a very fun ClashCast episode. We should do more of these late night shows. I think take some pointers from Stephen Colbert. It really worked. It was a very good show. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Marcin. And thank you, Microsoft.